The bus came to a sudden halt, and so did the thoughts of Maya. She opened her eyes and looked around. The bus had stopped in the middle of nowhere, just like Mohan, who had left her in the middle of nowhere after 12 long years. The room was filled with myriad of sounds, of laughter, of chatter, of whisper, of murmur, and loud thumping music. Maya wondered why she was here. She even regretted accepting the invite to this party. She looked outside. It was a full moon night. How she wished to walk through the night with the moon beside her. She sauntered towards the balcony. She had company here too. As if catching on to her thoughts, the shadow turned and made way to leave. "Oh no, you can stay here. There's enough space for us. And I don't mind some good company," said Maya. The shadow turned back and started gazing into the night sky. A long silence followed. Suddenly, Maya's glance fell on a neon board that read Cafe Coffee Day. "Hey, can you get me a cup of coffee?" No response. "Hi, I am Maya," she said, stretching her arm, her hand towards him. "Mohan," he said. She pointed out towards the neon light and said, "Come, let's go for coffee." The two slipped out of the room unnoticed. Strolling towards the cafe, the effervescent Maya kept talking and chirping, and the sober Mohan listened silently. "Two coffee, please," Maya ordered. Mohan took a sip. "Are you always so quiet, or is there something special today?" laughed Maya. And then she heard Mohan. "Can I get some salt, please?" "Salt? Who adds salt to his coffee?" She laughed. Mohan sprinkled some salt into his coffee, stirred it, and started sipping in silence. Then, breaking his silence, he said, "My childhood memories are all attached to the sea salt. And whenever I have salted coffee, it takes me back to the sea." And silently, he started sipping his coffee again. They exchanged their mobile numbers and bid goodbye for the day. They met several times after that, and each time they met, Maya was sure she wanted to spend the rest of her life with Mohan. Soon they got married, and what followed was 12 years of pure bliss. Mohan's depth and silence complemented Maya's chatter. They were perfect together, always in sync. She loved the expression in Mohan's eyes whenever she gave him a cup of coffee sprinkled with salt. This ritual she had been following for the last 12 years without fail, until Mohan breathed his last. Deep in her thoughts, she didn't even come to know when the bus started. It was only when she felt some salt in the air did she realize that her destination was near. On that fateful day, when she had taken the coffee to Mohan, he held her hand and, looking deep into her eyes, he said, "My life with you has been a happy life, but I need to tell you something. I need to confess. You remember That day when we met for the first time, I had asked for salt. That's the only time I lied to you. I never lived near the sea. The void he had left was killing. She needed to move out of this space, and Maya decided to be with herself for some days. Settling down in her room, she treaded straight to the white, salty marshes. She sat on a clearing, looking towards the vast expanse, experiencing nothingness, insignificance, purposelessness, and silence. What dragged her out of her reverie was the sound of a barking dog and the laughter of some children. She walked towards them and asked, "क्या नाम है तुम्हारा?" "मेरा? मैं किसना, ये धूपा, ये जिग्नेश." A woman in traditional mirror-worked lehenga that added color to the stark background called out for the children, and the children fled. Back in the room, she lay on her bed, thinking about that woman. She had felt an instant connect, as if she was her soul sister. In the next few days, she found herself going back to that place, looking for that woman. She caught a glimpse of her mirrored lehenga and she ran towards her, panting, breathless. मेरा नाम माया है और तुम्हारा? Khari Mem Saab, and she turned back, walking towards her village. For some reason, Maya followed her till the village, till her home. It was already past noontime. Maya was hungry, tired, and parched. Khari invited her in and gave her some bajra rotada, the garlic chutney, and a glass of buttermilk. Outside, the sun had set. It was getting dark, and Khari came to drop her back to the same spot. On an impulse, Maya took Khari's hand and sat her down. The night moon was lighting up the salt stretches, and the sea of white was getting brighter, sparkling in the full moon. As the light spread, Maya scooped a little salt and turned towards Khari. कितना सुंदर है ना ये, बिल्कुल चांदी. And she looked. She saw a tear fall down the cheek of Khari. She got up and ran into the darkness. That night, Maya kept tossing and turning in her bed. Khari's face haunted her. She had to find out the truth of Khari. The next few days, she went back to the village over and over again. The village, Kharagoda. She met the women. She met Khari. They were all widows. Slowly, they started speaking up. They opened their heart, and what poured out was bitter truth of salt. Khari had lost her husband at a very young age. He worked in the salt fields from dawn to dusk for 8 months in a year, in sun and in cold. His feet dipped in saline water. He had cancer. Many of the women told their men passed away before the age of 40. Long hours in the saline brine, saturated brine, got them many disease. The sun that shone on the white salt got them early cataract and sometimes blindness. The children never went to school. They had no farm, no land to do farming. They did not know anything but to make salt. That is all they had inherited from their ancestors, the salt widows, as they were called. Shared their stories, and Maya listened to them all in silence. For the first time, they released the pain and the shame which they had been carrying within them for so many years unheard. Maya walked back to her room listless. She went to the run. She lay there with her eyes wide open, the voices shouting in her ears. The same salt that had got her so much love had brought so much pain and misery in the lives of these women. All set to leave with her bags packed, each step heavy as she walked towards the bus. A hand touched her shoulder and a voice whispered, "Didi, mat jao na." Khari looked with hope in her eyes. Maya hugged her tightly and then she surprised herself by saying, "Khari, बस मैं कुछ ही दिनों में जाकर लौटती हूँ." She boarded the bus, eyes welled, vision blurred, but she clearly saw the path ahead. In the nothingness, in the insignificance, and in the purposelessness, she had found the purpose of her life.